And of all the pressing challenges that the nations represented here face, I believe there is nothing more urgent than mass migration.
Vance's recent speech in Munich was a powerful warning to globalists, and honestly, he couldn't be more right. He tackled one of the most pressing issues of our time, mass migration, and called out the political decisions that have led us here. Numbers don't lie. Migration levels have hit record highs in both Europe and the United States, and yet, instead of addressing the real concerns of their citizens, politicians have doubled down on the same failed policies.
Today, almost 1 in 5 people living in this country moved here from abroad. That is, of course, an all-time high. It's a similar number, by the way, in the United States, also an all-time high. The number of immigrants who entered the EU from non-EU countries doubled between 2021 and 2022 alone, and of course it's gotten much higher since. And we know this situation, it didn't materialize in a vacuum. It's the result of a series of conscious decisions made by politicians all over the continent and others across the world over the span of a decade. We saw the horrors wrought by these decisions yesterday in this very city. And of course, I can't bring it up again without thinking about the terrible victims who had a beautiful winter day in Munich ruined. Our thoughts and prayers are with them and will remain with them. But why did this happen in the first place?
The tragedy in Munich, like so many before it, is not some isolated event. It's a direct consequence of policies that put ideology over safety, that prioritize open borders over the well-being of citizens. The people didn't vote for this. No one went to the ballot box and said, "Yes, let's open the floodgates to millions without vetting." But what they did vote for, Brexit, nationalist movements across Europe, shows exactly how they feel. People want leaders who will protect their homes, their families, and their futures.
It's a terrible story, but it's one we've heard way too many times in Europe and unfortunately too many times in the United States as well. An asylum seeker, often a young man in his mid-20s, already known to police, rams a car into a crowd and shatters a community. How many times must we suffer these appalling setbacks before we change course and take our shared civilization in a new direction? No voter on this continent went to the ballot box to open the floodgates to millions of unvetted immigrants. But you know what they did vote for? In England, they voted for Brexit, and agree or disagree, they voted for it. And more all over Europe, they're voting for political leaders who promise to put an end to out-of-control migration. Now, I happen to agree with a lot of these concerns, but you don't have to agree with me. I just think that people care about their homes, they care about their dreams, they care about their safety and their capacity to provide for themselves and their children. And they're smart. I think this is one of the most important things I've learned in my brief time in politics. Contrary to what you might hear a couple mountains over in Davos, the citizens of all of our nations don't generally think of themselves as educated animals or as interchangeable cogs of a global economy. And it's hardly surprising that they don't want to be shuffled about or relentlessly ignored by their leaders.
And that's the real issue here. The political elite, whether in Washington, Brussels, or Davos, think they know better than the average citizen. They dismiss legitimate concerns as ignorance or worse, bigotry. But the truth is, people see what's happening. They know their communities are changing in ways they never agreed to. They see the crime, the economic strain, the cultural tensions, and they're tired of being told they're wrong for wanting a safe, stable society.
And it is the business of democracy to adjudicate these big questions at the ballot box. I believe that dismissing people, dismissing their concerns, or worse yet, shutting down media, shutting down elections, or shutting people out of the political process protects nothing. In fact, it is the most surefire way to destroy democracy.
Vance is absolutely right. Shutting down debate, censoring media, and labeling opposition as extreme won't protect democracy. It will destroy it. People are waking up, and they're demanding change. The question is, will the elites listen before it's too late?